You're listening to the Vikes Verified podcast. Hello, Vikings Nation, and welcome back to episode 99 of the Vikes Verified podcast. We're back out here in Cub Studios in Stillwater, presented by Pull Tab Sports. We're going to be recapping the Vikings' first loss of the season. We moved to 5-1 after a 31-29 defeat with the Detroit Lions. Very hard-fought game. I'm going to break down some of the box score stats. Everything is very similar. It just came down to who could make the big play at the end. Vikings had the ball with 4 minutes left and the lead, a chance to put them away. Weren't able to move the chains, let Detroit back in it, and they're able to kick a game-winning field goal. Overall, Matt, I feel like I've felt worse after losses, but either way, not great to drop one, especially to a division opponent, but, you know, the Lions are no joke.
Yeah, I mean, it was tough. Don't get me wrong. A loss is a loss. It never is going to feel great. But like you said, in terms of a scale of a loss, it didn't feel as bad as some can. You know, like we were in the game. It was a back and forth. We knew this was going to be a grudge match. It was hyped up all week. Some of the best teams in the NFC are really going at it, and you saw that, right? We get out to a 10-0 lead, then things flip on us. We go down 21-10, and then we fight back, and, you know, we end up taking a 1-point lead eventually at 29-28. That is where we should have really put the nail in the coffin there, and that's what frustrates me the most about this, but also makes me confident is that we were able to fight, show some ability to fight adversity, and then the ability to really improve is that being aggressive on that last drive before we gave the Lions the ball back to kick the game-winning field goal. You know, we get 5 yards on that first down run, great. But then my conundrum is why run the ball again when you can have two opportunities to pick up the first down via pass? So to me, that's where I had the big gripe, was putting all the pressure on that third down to pick it up when you had really two opportunities to get that. And then also the two-point conversion, whether it was just it was a great play by Brian Branch, but again, just not able to execute that play, and that was what ended up costing us the game and giving us our first loss of the season.
Yeah, and, you know, we can nickel and dime. We can break down, you know, plays that didn't work, the plays that did work. I think one thing we can agree, the Vikings offense is a great passing offense under Kevin O'Connell, absolutely. But it seems like since the regime has taken over, we've struggled in need first down situations to put games away. We have opportunities to make teams burn their timeouts, run out of time, and just, you know, get to a point where we're taking a knee, and it feels like, you know, most of those opportunities we've been unsuccessful. So you know, it's a point of emphasis for the team to be able to put these games away. But I'm going to read you some team stats from this game. I don't know if you had a chance to look at this afterwards. Total yards in the game: Vikings 383, Lions 391. We're within 10 yards there. Passing yards: 244 Vikings, 247 Lions. Right there again. Rushing yards: 139 for the Vikings, 144 for the Lions. Average yards per play: we're at 7.4. They're at 7.0. Offensively, this was a very, very even battle. We saw both running backs break big runs. Jahmyr Gibbs absolutely killed us for 30-plus fantasy points. But, you know, Aaron Jones had a decent day himself, racking up 94 yards and taking one to the crib from 40-plus on his first carry. So I think the major takeaway is, you know, we can go punch for punch with the heavyweight teams in this league. There's no question about it. The Lions are getting a ton of national attention as being the best team in the NFC, and rightfully so. They have playmakers all over. They have a very aggressive head coaching style, and, you know, their team matches that style for sure. Am I confident that we could beat them playing them again? Absolutely. And one of those reasons is, you know, the stability we've had at kicker, Matt. And I want to ask you a simple question. Will Reichard, been a stud for us all year. Would you have ran him out there from 73 for the win?
I would have. I said this. I know, obviously there's the other side of this conversation of, well, Kevin O'Connell knows his range. That can be true, right? But let's look at the percentages. If you need a touchdown, obviously this isn't even in the cards. But the thing is we're at just on the other side of midfield. He already said if he wouldn't have got that 5-yard penalty, he would have kicked it. Now, if he thinks he can make a 68, I know 5 more yards is a good amount, but still, Will's got a heck of a leg, and with the chances that you have with the Hail Mary on that side of the 50, we saw what happened. Sam Darnold gets sacked. Obviously, hindsight's 20/20, but man, I would have loved to have seen Will go out there, maybe give him an extra step on kind of his kind of warm up there, but to give him an opportunity to win the game. I thought there really wasn't a ton to lose there, and could have been a huge momentum boost. So was a little bit disappointing, but all in all was just should have never been in that situation in the first place, which is what I'm more frustrated about. So I'm not worried about Will Reichert in this team. Like we said, this was a loss we're not going to hang our hats on, and one that we can build off of. So to me, you just have to really take what Will's been able to do this year, 10 for 10, 4 50-plus yard kicks, is really starting to make a name for himself in the NFL, and establishing himself as the future kicker of this franchise for years to come. On the opposite side, there's a guy that is not doing so well, and that is Ed Ingram. Ed Ingram has had multiple games now where he's had some rough performances, and as much as I want to see him succeed, if he cannot fix his play pretty quickly here, I think, a replacement is in need. So it's very curious timing that Dalton Reisner gets activated off the IR and is now eligible to play in games. Nick, what are your thoughts on him potentially starting Thursday Night Football in Los Angeles?
It's hard to say, Matt. I think that Ed starts the game on a short leash. I think a penalty or a sack given up will thrust Reisner into the lineup. Kind of a similar thing happened last year with Reisner, kind of gained the respect and the love of this fan base for his passionate play, I would say, on the field. Like, he's a guy you want out there. He's going to show up with that dog mentality on the offensive line, and Ed is a great player physically, but consistency-wise and some of the mental mistakes have been rough to see, like you said. So I think it's just a good thing that we have a guard lined up, ready to step in if need be. I'm still going to think that they're going to give Ed the start, but like I said, I think the leash becomes a lot shorter now that Dalton Reisner is active. Another guy that may play on Thursday, Matt, is TJ Hawkinson.
Yep.
Highly anticipated return. What do you think this opens up for the Vikings offense this Thursday night? And if he does go, what do you expect in terms of a workload?
I expect him to go. I think now that you get a little bit of extra time in between this game and the home game between the Colts, I think it's a good time to get him back out there. All these reports are saying he looks more than ready to go, so I expect him to be active in Los Angeles, and I also expect it to open up the middle of the field and this offense more, right? No denying what Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, Naylor can do, but the tight end position has been somewhat average in a way. They've been making plays, but not at the rate that I think TJ Hawkinson can. And that just, I think, takes this offense to another level. I think he truly elevates this team, opens up another level of the passing game that Kevin O'Connell maybe hasn't fully been able to utilize yet. And just very excited to see what he can do because I think adding him into this offense with the weapons that we already have, now it's just another guy for defenses to have to account for. And this should help not only alleviate things for Sam Darnold, but for Justin Jefferson's coverage, Jordan Addison, and everyone around him. So very excited to get him back on the field, and I think we're going to see a lot of good things from him right out of the get-go because he looks ready to go. And then, Nick, a guy that I want to see ready to go and just hasn't is Dallas Turner. Yeah. 4 snaps yesterday in the game, just somewhat of mind-blowing and just how he's such a high first-round pick and is so highly regarded by the staff and is only able to find the field 4 plays. What's going on there? Do you think it's his play or just really all the other good players in front of him?
This is speculation. I'm going to give you 2 different scenarios. You remember he did miss a week with injury. You got to wonder if that's kind of lingering behind the scenes. That's kind of my first theory. The second is the players in his position at edge are playing at a really high level. Jonathan Grenard and Andrew Van Ginkel, once again, the 2 highest rated players on our defense this past week via PFF. These guys are balling, and there's no way around that. But that being said, that is no reason not to deploy Dallas Turner more than just 4 snaps. I'm a believer in, putting your best talent on the field consistently. And this guy is one of the best defensive talents in this year's rookie class. So KOC came out today and said, Dallas is going to be an absolute monster for us. We're just kind of working him along. But yes, I would like to see him split reps with Pat Jones at the very least. This is a guy that you want to keep on the field. Size, speed, smarts. There's really nothing not to like about Dallas Turner unless, like I said, he is a little bit banged up behind the scenes. I'm not sure, but I expect a large uptick in snap count for Dallas this week, especially if Blake Cashman is to miss another week. And we did see a snap or 2 of Dallas Turner at inside linebacker. Not saying he should work there primarily, but like I said, getting your best players on the field. I like Kamu Grugier-Hill, but I also think that he got exposed a little bit by Detroit's outside zone scheme. So if you're able to bump Dallas Turner into middle backer for a couple snaps. You can even move Van Ginkel back to the middle and put Dallas on the edge. There's things you can do with this front seven. They're kind of like chess pieces. It's just how are you going to deploy them and consistently give the offense different looks. So I expect an uptick for Dallas Turner for sure. I want to touch a little bit on Sam Darnold and his play in this game. Sam Darnold, 22 of 27, 259 yards, 1 TD and 1 pick. I thought he was pretty solid, over an 80% completion percentage. Obviously, the pick to Brian Branch, a staple in the Vikings offense. Play action crossers. We got Jefferson crossing left. We got Addison crossing right. We had Aaron Jones on a flat release where he was the open guy upon looking at the play afterwards. Sam just needed to get through one more read and get it down to him. He doesn't see Brian Branch, and Brian Branch makes a heck of a play on the sidelines. That was a big momentum-changing play. Other than that, Sam Darnold, I thought, played pretty solid. He can still push the ball downfield. He's proving that. But I almost want to see our offense take the training wheels off him, if that makes sense. I would like to see us open it up and, get Justin Jefferson that 100-plus yard game, get Jordan Addison that 100-plus. Our offense is good enough to light people up through the air. I'm waiting for that 300 to 350-plus yard performance. I just think they've kind of kept a cap on Darnold in terms of letting him take over and start to air things out.
Yeah, I would say that's part of it. I do think they are. It's KLC kind of going back to what he said of kind of keeping him within the boundaries, right? You're trying to make sure that he's not getting too carefree. Where you kind of see each game, he does have 2 to 3 plays that kind of make you scratch your head. The pick that he threw to Branch, if you watch that play back, Aaron Jones is wide open in the flat, seems to actually look over for a brief second and then turn to the right. Regardless, makes the throw to Addison, gets picked. That was a huge turn of events before half for them to go up and put 7 on us. And then on the 2-point conversion, Aaron Jones, again, open on the flat, decides to go on the in route to Addison. Great play by Brian Branch, but at the end of the day, we do not convert, and that ends up being the difference. So to me, it's just really about kind of honing in on some of those plays. And the thing that's more alarming is that there's a stat, I believe, that we've scored 3 touchdowns in the last 10 quarters. So for the hot start that this offense got off to, it has definitely cooled off a little bit, and I expect and hope to see kind of an improvement in that department with the games that we have coming up.
100%. Thursday night's a good opportunity for that. Rams not with the, a overly talented defense. We get TJ Hawkinson back potentially.
Cooper Kupp should be back.
I'm looking for some action offensively for us. Another play that we got to touch on is a nice peanut punch from Josh Metellus. Ivan Pace scoop and score. Ivan Pace looking every bit of a high school running back on that return up the sidelines. That was a play that, in my opinion, should have been game-winning. That's a game-winning type play. Metellus, leader on this defense, captain, steps up, punches it out. Pace, scoop and score. We're up 1. You put together a little bit better plan on that 2-point conversion maybe, and we're probably going to overtime in this game. So either way, regardless of outcome, that's a heck of a play, and that's something that the Vikings defense has not seen a ton of in recent years is defensive touchdowns. We've already got 3 this season, I believe. So great to see that. But I think this game kind of highlighted how much this defense missed Blake Cashman, right?
Yeah.
Blake Cashman out with turf toe. This guy was a field general for us the first 5 weeks and will continue to be when he comes back. But it just seemed like the middle of the field was a little bit more open with him out of the game.
100%. Yeah, you could see it was obvious. The Lions were targeting the middle of the field, and Ivan Pace, as good of a player as he is, just doesn't cover the same as Blake Cashman does, and he's not used to calling plays like Blake Cashman is. So just didn't really underestimated his impact on this defense. We need him to stay healthy. Like you said, you could see the difference in gaps in the pass game, and then you saw Amon-Ra, Laporta, whoever it may be, was crossing over the middle. It felt like they were just constantly getting those dig routes on us. So expect for them to adjust on that, knowing that teams are going to keep going there, but need Cashman back in the lineup really to provide that stability there at linebacker. But you did mention how Metellus and Ivan Pace were able to, go ahead and make a game-changing play that should have won us the game, but again, speaks to their abilities as defensive players. And to me, those sound like 2 studs.
Absolutely. Let's get into our Duke Cannon studs and duds of the week. Duke Cannon, are you a hard worker? then you need a soap that works just as hard as you do. Look no further than Duke Cannon and their seasonal selections, including Trophy Game, Buck Moon, and the ever-popular Candy Corn. Grab yourself Duke Cannon's big-ass brick of soap today and try it out for yourself. Climb aboard the Duke Cannon train and get the best in men's hair care, beard care, soaps, deodorant, and cologne. DukeCannon.com. You got to check them out this fall. All right, Matt. Into our studs and duds of the week. I'm going to start with number 1, the most obvious stud to me, Will Reichard.
Willie.
What a thrill this guy has been kicking the football. Just has so much drive, flexibility. I've really been blown away by the way Will Reichard has started his career, and he looks cool as a cucumber every time he runs out on the field.
And I feel like this guy makes it every week, but we got to go with Andrew Van Ginkel. Another great day yesterday. I believe 7 tackles, a forced fumble. He was all over the field. You consistently see him just making plays and an impact on that defense, so shout out to him.
100%. And next is going to be Jonathan Grenard, his counterpart on the other side. Jonathan Grenard was signed this offseason as a replacement for Danielle Hunter. Well, Jonathan Grenard has 38 pressures and 5 sacks in 6 games. He is outplaying Danielle Hunter on a much cheaper contract as well. It's looking like the Vikings got a real Duke Cannon stud in Jonathan Grenard.
And some obvious adds to this list. Josh Metellus, Ivan Pace, we mentioned how they were studs of the game. One final stud that I'm going to list is Aaron Jones. Scores that touchdown right away in the game. His pass pro protection is teach tape that a lot of guys should watch. What he brings to this offense is truly special, and he's another guy that we need to stay healthy because this offense takes a step down when he's not on the field.
100%, and not to mention him stepping up a little bit banged up. I mean, this is a guy that's battling through pain tolerance, and he comes in and he's still going to put big performances out on the field. You got to respect it. All right, into the segment. We don't necessarily love it, but duds of the week, Matt. I got a feeling who you're going to say number 1, but let's hear it anyway.
Another recurring guest on this list is Ed Ingram. He gets the duds list. Unfortunately, has had a slow start to the season. I am hoping to see an improvement in his game, but if he does not, I think a replacement in Reisner is going to happen. It's just a matter of when, not if.
Okay, and next is going to be Kamu Grugier-Hill, a guy who really stepped up nicely his last couple weeks, but like I said, got exposed a little bit in the ground game this week. We knew Jahmyr Gibbs is going to be a tough test, and honestly, I think that the early injury of David Montgomery was almost beneficial for the Lions because, in my opinion, Jahmyr Gibbs is a better back, and he's certainly more electric home run threat back. And he showed that, kind of shaking Cam Bynum out of his shoes for a long touchdown run. But Kamu, not a great PFF grade. I believe he only got 10 defensive snaps, but it speaks to how good Blake Cashman is.
And this is being a little bit tough on him, but Ty Chandler does make the duds list. Had a crucial holding penalty that took back a huge pass play for us about midway through the game, and just hasn't really had that same explosiveness that we saw in the 49ers game. I know it's there. I just want him to kind of untap that and just kind of find a way to create more of an impact for this offense because I know he has the ability to. It's just about putting it on the field.
Yep, and the last one's going to be Dallas Turner, and that's just because of lack of usage. Like I said, I think that's going to uptick for whatever phantom reason. Only 4 snaps for a first-round pick edge. It's a little bit suspect, but I expect him to turn it around in a big way going forward. Next, let's get into our Cub Foods Captain of the Week, Matt. Cub Foods, it's tailgating season, and Cub is your go-to grocery and liquor store. Why scurry around town picking up all your game day needs when you can just go to one stop? Look no further than Cub to grab your hamburgers, hot dogs, brats, chips, veggie platters, cold cuts, party trays, desserts, you name it, it's all in one place. Be sure to hit up Cub Liquor before you head out to grab drinks. All your tailgaters are sure to love. Check it out, Cub Foods. All right, Matt. My captain of the week is going to be Jonathan Grenard, like I previously mentioned, playing way above expectation on a pretty good value deal. And I feel like this is a guy who's really holding some weight in the locker room in terms of leadership. Goes about his business like a professional. You kind of listen to any interview he has and just the way he speaks about his teammates, the way he speaks about his coaches. He's a driving force in the Minnesota Vikings culture, and it's very easy to see why Kwesi coveted him so highly this offseason and paid him the deal that he did. It's because he's not only a great player on the field, he's a culture fit in the locker room, and he is really integrated into a Vikings uniform nicely.
Shout out to JG. What a signing that's been.
Let's go.
All right. My Cup Foods Captain of the Week is no other than Will the Thrill Reichard. This guy is off to a phenomenal start. Like we had mentioned, 10 for 10, 4 50-plus yard field goals, hit a huge 57-yarder against Detroit yesterday. And, man, I would have loved to see him have a chance at the end of the game there. But no denying the game-changing ability that Reichert has brought to the special teams unit. And very excited to see what he does in purple and gold because he is off to a hot start.
Yeah, you got to love it. Nobody in Minnesota not loving Will Reichert and the product he's putting out there right now.
Welcoming on to the Vikes Verified podcast, we have a very special guest, and that is former Viking safety Andrew Sendejo. Andrew, how you doing today?
I'm good, man. How y'all doing?
We're doing great, man. Came to pick your brain a little bit. Obviously, you had some fantastic years in Minnesota. We're going to touch on that a little bit. Also get some of your thoughts on, the modern game and how things are playing. So, first and foremost, I want to get started with what you've been up to after football, and I've done a little research on, your Braintree Nutrition Company, and I'm very interested in, the benefits that has for not only former players but, everyday people. So I'd appreciate if you could just dive a bit into that and what your post-football journey's been like developing Braintree.
Yeah, so like most guys that play for a while, you kind of take a little bit of time off. But while I was playing in the NFL, there weren't a lot of, or really any safe, banned substance-free products that we could take for focus, memory, and neuroprotection. I was always kind of the supplement guy of the locker room. And so me and another guy I went to college with, we teamed up with a neurologist, and we formulated Braintree Nutrition, which is just a line of pharmaceutical-grade products that work together to enhance, preserve, and protect your cognitive health. So I've been grinding away at that. Getting it to a lot of guys that I played with, guys that are done playing, just to try to give your brain kind of these natural alternatives from prescription medications to kind of help with these areas and to help with a lot of the TBIs, concussions, et cetera, what we had, and just kind of give people the brain nutrients they need to kind of optimize.
100%. I think that's a wonderful thing. We talked to Colin Thompson a week or two ago talking about Guardian caps and the usage of that in the NFL. Obviously how, concussion prevention and cognitive longevity are very important topics surrounding the NFL. So obviously, contradictory to that a bit, you are known as the make football violent again, hard-hitting safety, never shied away from contact. So obviously, it makes sense for you to be a little bit involved in this space, and I think it's a great thing coming from a physical player like yourself to stand up and vouch for this. So I guess my question to you now is, since you've retired, we've seen, I wouldn't say a major change in the way games are officiated, but, it's protecting offensive players now, right? And there's no secret about that. I don't know if you saw Patrick Mahomes fake step out of bounds the other day. Defensive players are scared to hit him on the sidelines. You don't want a fine. You don't want a suspension. I guess what's your opinion on kind of bridging that gap between keeping a good product on the field and, the game that we all grew up loving, and how to make it, I would guess, more safe for the players that are playing?
It's definitely tougher than ever to be a defensive player now, just with all the rules, like can't hit them high, can't hit them low, can't fall on them. We've always known that the game is tailored towards the offense. And so I always tell people, I'm like, just be a receiver, man. It's the easiest job. You get paid the most. Like, don't even play deep. Don't even mess with it. It's not worth it. But it's, they are focusing a lot more kind of on the longevity of the game, continuing to have the game around, to have youth playing the game. And so it makes sense, but there are just some calls out there that I kind of yell at the TV, and I'm like, there's no way that's a penalty. Mm-hmm. And I think just the way that I was brought up and the way that I played and kind of my style, that was just that was the only way I could make it as an NFL player. I wasn't, necessarily known as like a man-to-man cover guy. And so my style was like, okay, if I can't knock the ball out, I'm going to go at least try to like hit you and knock the ball off you, you know? But it does make makes it difficult for guys. I just always erred on the side of, I'm going to just go tackle this guy, and whatever the ref calls, they call. And not really put myself at jeopardy to maybe give up a big play because I was scared to hit the guy. I didn't really necessarily care about getting fined or any of that. I just played as hard as I could all the time. And I don't even know if people realize like how hard it is to actually go hit someone in the head anyways.
Yeah.
when it's going that fast, like even if you told guys like, hey, I want you to go hit that guy in the head, I guarantee you they would miss.
Yeah.
We're going to hit with your head. So it's just, it makes it difficult, but I understand it. You got to keep guys on the field. You got to keep the big name players on the field, keep them in the game. But I think as a defensive guy, you should just always go for the hit and just really set the tone of like, okay, you need to slide or get down or get out of bounds, or I'm going to hit you. I'm not going to like jeopardize myself.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, I mean, it definitely rings true. Defensive positions are already hard enough, and now with these rule changes, the intricacies and kind of having to almost tiptoe through some of these tackles in terms of them making sure that they're not doing the wrong thing, I think is what makes it so difficult. But someone who's been able to kind of blend keeping their physicality while being a smart player, someone you've actually played with as well, and that's safety Harrison Smith. Obviously a Viking legend. You guys had some awesome years together on the backside of that defense. Just want to kind of dive into your experience playing with the Hitman and maybe a favorite memory of yours during your time, playing together with on the Vikings.
Yeah, I think, like you said, like Harry's always been like a physical player, but has maintained his health. Not a lot of, fines or suspensions or anything like that. I feel like he's always done a good job of being physical, but like with his shoulders. And so, but playing with him was always great because the other safety, y'all kind of have to be able to, like telekinetically, like communicate. You don't really you're so far apart on the field, you can't hear each other, and you can't always hand signal because you don't want to put it on tape. So you almost have to be able to have enough reps together to where y'all can see the same thing. You can kind of just look at each other and through eye contact be like, are you seeing what I'm seeing? Okay, I know what to do on this. And a big part of that is being able to see like route progressions the same way and how you would play it. And so that makes it makes you kind of gel and work together well. But a lot of it is just having a lot of reps together. That's really like the main thing. If two safeties can have a ton of reps together, they'll naturally get on the same page because they will have seen so many plays. They know how to play the play. And especially Harrison too, like he disguises a lot. Mm-hmm. And so you have to be able to know that he's not in the wrong coverage. He rarely ever had like mental errors or anything. I think there was maybe one time in my entire career with him where he was playing the wrong coverage and I had to correct him, but he disguises so much, it kind of confused me. I thought maybe he was just disguising. And then I was like, oh, wait, you're actually in the wrong coverage. But other than that, he was just a great guy to have out there because if there was ever like a check or something that occurred that we kind of weren't sure how to play a certain call, we just all trusted him a lot. And so if he called something, we would just play it. So having a guy like that is just smart, savvy, like in the moment, to be able to be down, and he's down on the line of scrimmage a lot. So he can communicate kind of with like the linebackers and the secondary all at the same time versus I was always kind of way back in the middle field. And so you can only kind of communicate with so many people because you're just so far away. So the position he's in, actually, it's great for him and kind of his knowledge of the game and his presence and experience and like leadership and whatnot.
100%.
Favorite story?
Yeah,
I got a ton of stories, but am I allowed to cuss on here?
Oh yeah,
yeah, absolutely.
I mean, it's a bad play. Obviously, Harrison has so many damn good plays, so I can talk about a bad play. But when we were playing like the Texans in 2016, he dropped like a wide open pick against Brock Osweiler. He would have just like literally walked into the end zone, and I could tell like 5 plays later he was still pissed about it. And I was just I was like, man, like let it go. And he just like looked me right in the eyes and he said, "Fuck you." And that was it. Yeah. But he doesn't really show much emotion. So I was just like, all right, man, I'll let you do your thing. Like I know you'll be all right. But that's like one funny story that kind of sticks out. But I mean, there's a lot of stories on off the field, the whole deal. So
100%. I feel like they've really kind of started to put a little bit more light on him too, like his life a little bit behind the scenes. I guess he was, such like kind of a mysterious guy for so many years. Like nobody knew what this dude was doing, and now they got the videos of him at home. Have you seen that apparatus he's using for his body, like that?
Yeah,
Provelo machine.
I was at his house this summer in Tennessee. Went and hung out with him for like a week before training camp, and I was like, "Bro, tell me about this weird like machine that you have." And he's like, "Dude,
it's gotta be working."
If you would have had this like while you were playing, and So he like showed it to me and stuff, but it makes sense. But he's always been, you know, he's not flashy. He's not on social media. He's not the guy that's gonna be after a play like, doing his own dance and like he's just super chill. And I feel like that's why, maybe he doesn't get as much recognition is because he's not the flashy guy that's like posting his highlights every week.
Yeah, for sure.
Instagram or like doing all the extra stuff. Like, there's guys that celebrate after making a tackle and it was like a 5-yard gain, and we're sitting there thinking like, why are you celebrating? Like they just made 5 yards. So he's just about playing ball, making plays. Like if he's celebrating, like he's like really really excited because he does not celebrate. So
you saw him in London right after getting Rodgers.
Oh yeah.
Just kind of double check. That was awesome.
He's starting to get a little looser in his old age now. He's starting to kind of let it go a little bit. I don't think he would have ever done that in the past for sure. So.
I like it. Yeah. Probably stems from him and Rodgers' relationship. I think that's pretty decent too. So I mean, it felt good for him to get one on him.
Yeah, it's fun to see, and I miss the days of watching you guys because you guys, I think, excelled really in being kind of a no-nonsense duo back there. You guys both brought a lot of physicality, but both kind of let the game speak for itself. Right, not speaking into the media, having to throw highlights out there, and I just think the respect that the league has for Harrison just speaks volumes in terms of who he is as a player on and off the field. And he doesn't really need to be the guy, barking on social media to get that attention. So was awesome watching you guys go at it for years. But speaking on your time with the Vikings, was there, what was maybe a favorite moment? I know Minneapolis Miracle might be an easy one to fall to. What was maybe one of your favorite moments just being a part of the team during your time with the Vikings?
Man, actually, I would say outside of that would probably be the 2012 season. So we're going way back now. It shows how old I am. But I remember we weren't really doing that hot, and we had to win the last 6 games in a row to even make the playoffs. And I mean, that's really hard to do, to win 6 games in a row and down the stretch at the end of the year. And as a young player, I think I was in maybe my like 3rd year that year or something. So I'm a young special teams guy, like just trying to stay on the roster really as a special teams guy. But I remember like rattling off 6 wins in a row, beating the Packers at home to go to the playoffs and play them the next week. Like that was just a really cool season as a young guy to like experience that and go to the playoffs for the first time. Obviously the 2017 season, although great season, like went far in the playoffs, whatnot. But I think just being a starter on a defense that was ranked the #1 defense in the NFL is something that you kind of take pride in, that you contributed to that. And then, being a part of a history-setting defense as being like the all-time leading like 3rd down defense for the lowest 3rd down conversion percentage like in NFL history. So, and that's like falls a lot on the defensive backs.
Absolutely.
And so those are things that I kind of just like took pride in, knowing like not only were you playing football at the highest level, but you were like at the highest of the highest level as far as like defensively, and not necessarily like you individually, but you're the guys that you were rolling with out there. So that was pretty cool.
2012, was that Joe Webb playoff game, correct?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah,
at Lambeau, yeah.
Yeah.
That's right. That does bring me back. But yeah, you talk about 2017 specifically. I mean, really a majority of your years kind of here under the Zimmer regime. I mean, the defense is very highly respected. You talk, to one of the game's greats and Aaron Rodgers. I mean, he says a lot about different teams, but he always spoke with respect about Mike Zimmer's scheme and playing against Mike Zimmer and your guys' defense. So obviously, you see those years come and go. The breakup in Minnesota between Zimmer and front office, it wasn't the prettiest thing. Now you see him in Dallas, defensive coordinator. Dallas is struggling a little bit this year, I would say, but your years under Mike Zimmer and that team, because it seemed like you guys had great chemistry. It seemed like the team was well put together, well coached. And then you start to see some of these things that are uncovered after the fact. That Zimmer and Spielman didn't speak to each other, and there was problems here and there in the locker room. I felt like it was decently masked because I felt like it was pretty much together the whole time. Was there any breaking point where you thought that maybe, I don't want to say he lost the locker room or anything, but was there any time towards the end of your Vikings career that you saw things were maybe falling apart a little bit?
Not really, because my last season was the 2019 season, so I was like in Philly half the year, and then I came back the last half of the year. And so I think things kind of started to unravel after that. And as a player, you don't really see their behind the scenes interaction, and like some teams, the GMs and the coaches at practice are kind of hanging out, talking and stuff like that. But Zim was such a hands-on head coach. Like he ran the defense, so he was over there the whole time. A lot of other head coaches are kind of, managing everything, and they're going around to the offense, the defense, the special teams. So they kind of have time to sit with the GM and talk about different things. But so it was hard to really tell like how they were. I know Zim was like a hard ass, and I could see how someone could not get along with him because of like just the way he is. And he was very cutthroat. Like if they put in a new guy and he messed up one play, he would like immediately pull you out, put another guy in. Yeah. And I mean, just on paper, I could see how a GM and a head coach could clash when the GM is saying like, hey, this is our guy. We need to like give him some more reps and whatnot. And then the head coach is saying, well, every time I put this guy in, he fucks up. So like, I can't have that on my defense, So I could see that clashing. But I don't actually truthfully know what their interactions were like.
Definitely. And it was a interesting turn of events, but no doubt the respect that we had for Mike Zimmer and what he was able to do with this team. So kind of switching notes here, going into the current regime, this Vikings team is 5-1. You've been kind of tagging along, keeping up to date with the team. What are your overall thoughts on this roster and front office and kind of the overall state of this franchise right now?
Can't really speak on the front office, but I can only really evaluate it just on what I see kind of on the field. Know how to start fast, been winning ball games that they maybe on paper shouldn't have won. Like playing good, sound ball for the most part of what I've been seeing. And I just kind of love to see it, because I still have guys that I played with, like Harry's my boy, but just even kind of like having Sam Darnold have a resurgence of – I think it's a perfect example of like sometimes these quarterbacks come into the league and they get thrown in and it's like they kind of write them off and really like at the hardest position, how can you expect someone to come in right away and just like completely ball? Like it just shows you need some development. So it's been cool to see him play well, kind of when the cards are stacked against him, to see the defense play. Like obviously I'm a defensive guy. Any defense I see that's playing well, like I just love to watch that anyways. So, but yeah, I think, ground game's good, scoring points, getting turnovers, protecting the ball, all the things you got to do to win the game, which is why they're 5-1.
100%. And yeah, bringing Aaron Jones on the team too has been such a big difference. I feel like the last couple of years had some difficulties establishing the run. But you being the defensive guy that you are, obviously you like 22 and we still know he's making plays back there. Who else pops out on this Vikings defense to you? There's a lot of guys at the linebacker spots, defensive front. We've got some veteran corners we brought in.
Gilmore's been nice.
Yeah, who are some guys that you got your eyes on this season that you think are playing at a high level?
I feel like Pace has been balling.
Yes.
And the other safety, like I feel like I see every time I kind of pop up, he's making some splash plays.
Bynum, Metellus, both of them.
Van Ginkel's been a fun
Metellus
one too.
is a beast too. Like he's so versatile. Like a guy like that will play for 10, 12 years. Because they can just play so many spots at a high level. Their knowledge of the game now just increases like tenfold because they've played all these positions. But yeah, those guys definitely all stand out. Just kind of like the overall scheme in general, like all playing together. And that defense specifically, like really is what makes the defense kind of flourish. When everyone's kind of doing their part, just like any defense, but specifically this one with a lot of the blitzes that they do.
Yeah, I mean it's been described as pretty innovative. I mean just the way he'll walk 7-8 guys up on the line of scrimmage. He can drop to cover 2 from any front. The stunts he's running up front. But, some of it comes down to instincts as well. And, I can't believe some of the plays Van Ginkel's been making at the line of scrimmage.
Oh, yeah. Fuck, how did I forget about that guy? Yeah, that guy it's like they showed a couple of clips of him, like, literally doing that. Like, he would drop out and get that pick. He's done it, like, with Miami as well. That's, like, his thing.
He's I've never seen a guy read screens like that, to be honest. I mean, he's had 2 other ones that he didn't pick off that he was right there as well. Like, I've just never seen a guy up the line of scrimmage making plays like that. It's crazy.
No, that guy's been on fire as well. So, you have a couple of those guys like that making splash plays here and there, and guys kind of just all doing their part. That's when you have a really good defense.
And from your perspective, watching this defense, I know you mentioned how obviously Brian Flores blitzes at a high rate. When you watch this defense, is it just because he blitzes at a high rate? What makes this defense so hard to kind of beat and make them so special?
It's probably just all the multiple looks, like the fact, like you were just talking about, like you can make everything look the same, and it can be 5 different things. That's what really messes up quarterbacks, receivers, like all the protection for the O-line and whatnot. Is like when they're up there, they're looking at it and they're like, well, shit, it could be this, but it could also be this. Well, shit, it could also be this. And so then all of a sudden they have to react once everybody pops out, does all their twists and all their games up front. So it just creates stress for all them to have to pick everybody up. And nobody wants to go into a game where you kind of don't already have a plan pre-snap.
Definitely.
So that's to me, that's probably causing the most issues for a lot of the offenses.
Yeah, I feel like young quarterbacks especially too. You see a lot of stock looks in college, like cover 2, cover 3. I feel like some of these guys walking up on the line of scrimmage are like, what the hell is going on here?
They have no idea. They're reading Chinese for sure. Like they have no fucking idea what they're doing.
Yeah, it's very refreshing to see that aggressive style because, Zimmer was, heralded as more of a aggressive coordinator with that double A gap type look that he would always like to bring. And then you kind of get similar looks with Flores, just bringing a couple extra on the front there. But we had the 1 year of Ed Donatel, and no disrespect to him, but a much different defense, a more of a cover off man, play very shell defense. Which to us, being used to a little bit more of an aggressive style, it's good to have that back in Minnesota for sure.
For sure. I want to touch a little bit about, non-Vikings for you. What would you say your best experience in the NFL? With what team besides the Vikings did you have the best time with?
Man, my last year in Indy was really special. I got to reunite with Xavier Rhodes. It was one of the main reasons I signed there. I made them put my locker right next to his. I was like, I don't care who's there. Because when I signed there, I was the oldest guy on the team. So I was like, put my locker right there. So I got to hang out with Xavier every day. And then even him and we had our own language and code that we have been using for years. So once him and I were on the same side, he felt more comfortable. I could give him kind of secret calls and stuff. I'm like, hey, do this and all those different things. So that was cool just to reunite with one of your boys. The organization was solid. The DC was solid. I really enjoyed it. And then the year before that, although it was the COVID year, which kind of sucked, and being in Cleveland, a place that hadn't normally won a playoff game for the first time in 27 years or something like that. So as an older guy, when you're going to Cleveland, the first thing you think is this is where careers go to die. You're like, oh shit, this is going to be my last place I ever play. They're going to suck, And to go somewhere like that and to have a really good year and win a playoff game was really cool. So, I enjoyed a lot of the places that I was at. I was always just, as an undrafted free agent, I was always just thankful to be in the NFL. So I just made the most of it, just had as much fun as I could.
Was that last year? Was that Kevin Stefanski's first year there?
Yes.
Okay.
That was basically the reason I even went to Cleveland, because our old DBs coach, Joe Woods, got the DC job.
Yep.
And then my safeties coach at the time, Jeff Howard, got the DBs job. And they were going to be basically running a combination of the Vikings defense and kind of the Seattle cover 3, which I ran in Philly with Schwartz. And so it was during COVID year, and they knew they weren't going to be able to have meetings and different things. And so they're like, look, we have a veteran that can come in. He knows the whole defense. And that was kind of a lot of my role was just sitting back there and making sure everyone was lined up half the time. That was what I did a lot of it. I didn't get to blitz or do any of the fun shit because I had to make sure I had everybody lined up all the time. So it was really interesting.
That's awesome. Well, kind of to piggyback off Nick's question, over your career, you had 9 interceptions. Which one really stood out to you the most?
So I know which one stood out to me.
Your first one will always stand out because it was the year after Joe Flacco had won the MVP in the Super Bowl. It was a snow game. And then the interception against Drew Brees in the divisional round, which a future Hall of Famer. And although playoff picks don't actually count towards your stats, if you didn't know that, but that was just
oh wow,
it was a play that I was like, holy shit, I can't believe I just caught that. Like it looked like it was going over my head. If it would have been a touchdown. So just like a cool, like a playoff pick is like always like, I feel like counts as 2 almost. So those are probably my top ones.
Yeah, I think there's, I mean, I think there had been a lot of people that didn't know you could get up like that before that play. I mean, it had to have just been an adrenaline rush, but I mean, I believe we were up 10-0 at that point. That was a big pick. Sent us back, you know, right about midfield with the ball. I mean, I just remember watching that play like, holy shit, I didn't know that he had that.
No, me neither. It's funny when the ball's coming at you, you're like, oh shit, I gotta go get that thing.
Well, in the Baltimore game, I believe that was the one. It was snowy. I was back and forth, like crazy ending.
That last 2 minutes was absurd.
Yeah,
yeah. It was like I think there was like 4 lead changes in the last 2 minutes or something crazy like that. Yeah, that was a nuts game for sure.
Patterson cribbed a kick in there at some point too.
Yeah, you've had your fair share with the Miracle 2 mix in there. Yeah.
Well, 100%. I mean, we appreciate the time, absolutely. You know the Vikings, obviously you know, but one of the best alumni networks. I think that's what's so cool is, like, former players are just so welcomed in the facility. You see them at games all the time. Like, I just feel like that culture is, like, not totally common, and a lot of guys I feel like just don't feel comfortable going back to their home. But, hey, anytime you're up here, hopefully you get up here maybe for the Colts game, flex into prime time, but I just think that's a cool thing that you can come back, chop it up with some of your old teammates, and just have a good time.
Yeah, no, they take care of you. Like, they'll make sure you get down on the field, go up in like the alumni suite, and they're always kind of hitting you up to see, you know, which games you're coming back to. So they definitely take care of you. So it's something I'm thankful for that. You know, also playing there for a while helps as well. But yeah, they definitely treat you like family for sure.
Yeah. Again, appreciate the time. It was a blast watching you over your career, and now getting to kind of pick your brain on this. And as always, SKOL Vikes.
SKOL.
SKOL. We appreciate you. Best of luck with the Braintree endeavors. I think it's a great thing, but yeah, keep rolling off the field, and let's see what we can do this season. Why not us? Yeah. Why not us?
I like it. Thanks, guys.
Yes, sir.
Take it easy.
The Vikes Verified podcast is sponsored by Drip Drop. Are you looking for the best electrolyte in the game? Look no further than Drip Drop. They have some of the most high-quality electrolytes on the game with half the sugar as its competitors and 3 times the electrolytes. So if you're looking to up your electrolytes and find something new and improved, go check out Drip Drop and get yourself some today at dripdrop.com. The Vikes Verified podcast is sponsored by Jimmy's Dressing and Dips. The leaves are falling and the seasons are changing, and that means there's no better combo than a crisp apple and Jimmy's caramel dip. Go get yourself some today at Cub Foods.
Let's talk a little bit about the LA Rams, Matt. Fired up to say we will be in attendance, and we are fired up for that. First time to SoFi Stadium for both of us. Heard great things. Can't wait to report the experience for you guys while we're down there. But this is a big game. You know, you got to – in the NFL, you got to be a good bounce-back team. There's not time to dwell and think about what went wrong the last week, especially on a short week. So here we go. Into Thursday Night Football, playing a pretty banged-up Rams team. They've been most of the season without their 2 premier wideouts in Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp. It looks like they will get Cooper Kupp back for this game. And then I would say, you know, Matthew Stafford, heck of a quarterback. You can never write him off in a matchup, even if he is banged up. And then the other premier offensive threat is Kyren Williams, a guy who, if you look at his last 10-plus games, fantasy scores and just overall production, the guy is very productive. So this is going to be another test for our defensive front. Can we shut down the Rams' ground game? If we do and make them throw the ball, I like our chances of getting home to Stafford a lot. So what is your overall feel on this game as you look forward to it, Matt? Obviously, the narrative of Sean McVay and Kevin O'Connell worked closely together to secure a championship for the Rams not too long ago. Sean McVay obviously probably knows some of the things Kevin likes to do. Kevin knows some of the things Sean likes to do. It's going to be a good battle and a battle of schematics. What's the first thought when you think Vikings-Rams?
Well, you gave a pretty detailed breakdown, but
you're damn right.
There is no Puka Nacua. That's a huge help for us. The offensive line had a couple injuries on it. So overall, I think that this is a game that the Vikings should and will win. The Rams offense led by Matthew Stafford. He's still going to be able to make plays, even with, Tyler Johnson and Tutu Atwell out there. Mm-hmm. He knows how to sling the rock. Kyron Williams is still a problem. So I think the biggest thing is going to be kind of bottling up Kyron Williams and then forcing Stafford to have to make quick throws. Obviously, a lot of the secondary's attention is going to go towards Cooper Kupp and stopping his impact on this game. But I think you're going to see a little bit more pressure maybe this week, especially with the battered O-line that they have. Mm-hmm. Expect Flores to kind of turn up that dial and bring a lot of heat in Los Angeles. Expect a very good performance from this defense, and I think it should be a really fun game, but one that the Vikings should at least have some say in and not hopefully be one down to the wire. But knowing the Vikings, that might be asking too much. So it should be a fun matchup, primetime Thursday Night Football.
Yeah, looking at their defense, I want to dive into it a little bit. I thought it was cool. They drafted teammates from Florida State, Jared Verse and Braden Fisk, two of the highest-graded guys in college football the last couple of years. Other than that, you look at this defense, Byron Young, decent linebacker. Troy Readers made some plays for him. Christian Roseboom, South Dakota State product. Other than that, you look at these guys on paper, especially in the secondary, Kobe Durant, Cam Curl, Quentin Lake, Josh Wallace. Can we cook these guys or what? I really think there's a good chance that we can take advantage of this team through the air on Thursday night because if you look at the Lions' defense on paper versus this one, it is a pretty night and day difference.
Yeah, I expect this offense to have somewhat of a breakout game like we talked about, having only 3 touchdowns in the last 10 quarters. This is a great get-back game. Get Justin Jefferson 100-plus, maybe in the end zone. Just overall, I think this is a confidence building game. Now, no disrespect to the Rams. This is not going to be a walk in the park.
No.
But that secondary compared to what they've been going against is a step below, and I think that does, with hopefully the return of Hawkinson, ease things up for this receiving crew. So expect a pretty good performance out of Sam Darnold and this crew, and that can lead into my game time pick of the week. Mm-hmm. I spoke about offense, but my pick of the week comes from special teams. I think Will Reichard continues his solid run to this season, and we're going to need a few field goals out of him. And with that being said, my game time pick of the week is Will Reichard over 1.5 field goals made.
I like it a lot. I mean, tough to bet against Will Reichard in any regard. My game time pick of the week is going to be Jordan Addison anytime TD. And do I have any rock solid concrete evidence as to why? Not necessarily. It just feels like Jordan Addison's due for one. And last time we played on Thursday night in Philly, he lit it up, had a big game, couple touchdowns. So I expect Jordan Addison to see the end zone, maybe not once, but twice. So that's my pick of the week is Jordan Addison anytime TD. My score prediction next is going to be 34-21 Vikings. I see Vikings getting past 30 points. Like I said, if you get in a rhythm passing the football, I think we can roll on these guys. Not discrediting Matt Stafford in that offense by any means. Matt Stafford to Cooper Kupp is one of the premier connections in the NFL. But I see the Vikings doing what good teams do and learning from a loss, tough divisional loss. How do you respond? It's all about next game, next play mentality, and I think the Vikings are going to prove that they have that on Thursday night.
Yes, sir. I'll follow suit. I think this team rebounds. This is fuel to the fire for them. Kevin O'Connell is going to use this in the right way and really get these guys fired up for this Thursday night game. Short week, but I expect a good performance. And with that, I think the Vikings come out with a 27-17 win in SoFi and hopefully start a little bit of another win streak here.
I would love to see it. A couple more tidbits for the Vikings. Our game versus the Colts on November 3rd was a noon game. That's now been flexed to Sunday Night Football. They moved back the Eagles versus Jaguars game.
Electric.
So that will give the Vikings 2 primetime games in a row, and I could never complain about a night game in U.S. Bank Stadium. It is a vibe in there, and I know the Vikings are excited to put what they have on display for primetime. A couple other things. Trade deadline, Matt, will be just 2 days after that game on November 5th. We've got a list of some potential trade targets here. I want to go through each one and just see, how they make sense. I'll start with Jeffrey Simmons, interior defensive lineman, Tennessee Titans. And this does make sense. This is a guy that is a game wrecker. I would call him just not quite as big an explosive version of Dexter Lawrence. Obviously, people want to talk a lot about Dexter. Jeffrey Simmons is a brute in the middle and would certainly be a good addition to our team. It just comes down to cost and, are you planning on signing him to a contract afterwards? But Jeffrey Simmons is certainly a target.
Yeah, he's high on my list for sure. I'm going to go. This is very fitting.
Especially with the Titans probably being sellers at the deadline as well.
Yes. Yep. Very fitting second option here, and that is former Mankato Maverick Adam Thielen.
Oh, we don't got to do this.
Not only for the reasons of seeing him back in Minnesota in this, repping for the Vikings for my sweet city of Mankato, but I think that he could provide a great wide receiver 3-4 value to this wide receiver room. I think he's at a point of his career now where he kind of saw the grass wasn't greener in Carolina, and I think if he had an opportunity to come back and play with the Minnesota Vikings, he would take that in a heartbeat. And I just would never deny seeing Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen back in the same wide receiver room. Okay. So I'm going to put that out there.
Look me in the face. Take your Mankato cap off for a second and look me in the face and tell me he'd be more productive than Jalen Nailor.
I won't say that, but if we can get him for the right price, I am all on board.
I don't know. We'll have to see on that one.
Would you rather have Adam Thielen or Brandon Powell?
In the fourth slot, BP. You can return punts. Bingo.
I don't know. Right. I don't know. I agree to disagree on that one.
Next one on the list, we got J.C. Horn, another Carolina Panther. Most of these trade targets coming from losing teams who are looking to sell. J.C. Horn is a very talented corner, son of Joe Horn, former New Orleans Saints receiver. This guy is talented on the back end, and let's be real. If the Vikings are going to make a major addition, it's likely going to come in the cornerback room or the interior D-line room, if I had to guess. Maybe an offensive guard, but that's where I see the additions being. We have him and Marcus Lattimore on this list, as well as Greg Newsome. Who out of those three is the most likely trade target in your eyes?
Most likely, probably Lattimore, unfortunately, just due to his kind of age and part of his career. J.C. Horn's still a pretty young player. Yeah. Greg Newsome, still a really young player and on a pretty good defense. I don't think they're really going to want to get rid of him.
Yeah.
If I had to pick between two, it's Horn and Lattimore, just based off where those teams are at currently as a franchise. I think Saints have a terrible cap situation. I think they're going to have to get rid of Lattimore. So trade deadline, I think his name is going to start to really heat up over this next week or two. And then J.C. Horn, he's someone where you're probably going to have to give up a little bit more because he's young. You can get him on a little bit more of a long-term contract, and he's more of a future piece to whatever team he got traded to. But both would provide really great impacts to this team. Someone that's, I think, under the radar for me that I would like the Vikings to look into is Azeez Al-Ajari, I believe his name is.
Yep.
He, New York Giants defensive end, former LSU Tiger, has had some really great moments as a Giant, and I think if the price is low enough, would not mind adding him to this defensive edge, defensive line group, just to add another electric, explosive body.
Yeah, I think those are all pretty good targets, and we obviously talked about the most popular target, and that's Dexter Lawrence last week. So we're going to have to see what the Vikings – I think these two games are big identifiers of what this front office feels that they need added to this team to get to the place they want to go. So these next two games are going to be great indicators of that. So I'm excited to see how we're able to bounce back and get a W. We sure are excited to document this experience for you in Los Angeles at SoFi Stadium.
Boots on the ground.
Yep, boots on the ground. Make sure you tap into our social medias. We're going to be giving you the best pregame content, tailgate content, and in-game content you could ask for. This is episode 99 of the Vikes Verified podcast. We appreciate all of you out there, and I want to tell you to keep your head up after this one. There's been a lot of losses that feel worse than this. The Vikings have not dug themselves a hole. We're in one of the best divisions in football. You know what they say, iron sharpens iron. Let's go out, bounce back, get one against the Rams, sit at 6-1. SKOL Vikes.
Yes, sir. It's time to take over SoFi, get back in the win column, and get this thing rolling. SKOL Vikes.
SKOL. You're listening to the Vikes Verified podcast.